Welcome to Diary of a Queen. We are in the week of Christmas, and it is a crazy busy time for everybody. I'm joined by Jeannette Preston from California. Jeannette, thank you so much. I know this is a crazy time of year, just for business and personal. So thank you very much for being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Danielle.
I would like to know just a quick little, what are y'all doing for the holidays?
Well, being that we do not have family here, and it's a very busy time for my family and his family in Florida, more of a touristy industry there, we always go somewhere. So we are leaving tomorrow for Mexico. So we'll go to Playa del Carmen and to Tulum for a few days.
That sounds amazing. I might skip what I'm doing and head with you. You've got a suitcase big enough and you open it and you find me like keep it in there. You'll be like, oh, I guess you needed a break. It sounds amazing.
Well, being that, I wasn't gifted with kids, it makes the holidays a little lonelier if we're just sitting at home. So we choose to travel. So every year we're in the Caribbean, we're somewhere traveling just to get over the fact that we don't have any babies to like open presents with.
And we're gonna talk about that topic in a second. But your love of travel is something that we've talked about. For anybody that's watching, I've been on vacation with Jeannette before, and thrill seeker is the word that kind of comes to mind. One time I went on vacation with her. In about 10 seconds, she was out of this rusty, dusty dinghy we were in the middle of the ocean, jumping in with like seals swimming around. I'm thinking to myself, we're bait. We're shark bait. We're along with seals as shark bait. And Jeannette was like, bye. And she's in the water. Where do you get your thrill seeker attitude from? Because you've always been like that.
Yeah, I have. And I think at that moment we were in Cabo, Mexico. Mm-hmm. And we went out on this little excursion, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, seals, that means great whites. I'll get to do a free great white dive or snorkel if I were so lucky, but we didn't see any. And I remember that you stayed in the boat and your husband joined me, and he came along with me to be shark bait. But the joys of the shark diving and the craziness comes from probably growing up in the Keys. So when I was a little kid, there's this lobster sports season, and I remember it would be 12:01 midnight on sports season day, and you could jump in at midnight. And I would go with my dad at like 10 years old and take our boat out and go under the bridges, and we'd go lobstering with just one little light, and I'd be swimming behind him thinking, God, I hope I don't get bit by a shark. And my fears turned into a passion and a love. And one of the things about my travel is 99% of the time, it's the same old thing. It's on some beach in Philippines, Fiji, Tahiti, Caribbean, wherever it may be, it looks like the same thing. But I can guarantee you there's different species of sharks that I'm out there looking for. So that's kind of what I do.
You're sitting there talking, and I'm like, no. And you're right. When we were in that boat, my husband jumped in the water as well. And I remember, I don't know why this always comes to mind, because it's funny now, but at the time I was petrified. He took some bread. Do you remember this? He took some bread with him. I'm like, do you really want to add to the fact that you're now bait? I mean, I don't think you want to feed. And he dove into the water. Now, that was his first time ever snorkeling. I don't know if you know that or not. And so
I don't know that I remember that, but I do remember the bread, because that's always my suggestion to get all the fish around.
Yeah. And he jumped in, and as he jumped in, he had, the goggles on and the snorkel. A seal swam right up to him and darted off, and he came out of that water and he pulled that snorkel out of his mouth, and and then I thought, okay, this is a make it or break it moment. He's either back in the dinghy with me or he's going on, and he kept going on. And I will tell you, he
did a great job.
He did. I spent most of that time in the boat, and then when we went snorkeling later, and you were chasing lizards, and I remember these huge like lizards trying to hand feed them. I'm thinking
that's. If
you're crazy, I'm gonna sit here on the beach.
We we had about 4 or 5 hours. I could tell you about every lizard and fish and everything that I've tamed and the sharks that I have to touch. And yes, there is a fascination with lizards and snakes and sharks and every creature just about. If it's not a cockroach or a scorpion, I'm probably attracted to it. And I think that's just the tomboy side. There's the beauty pageant, the one side where all of that life existed. And then there's the other side with the dirt bikes, the military, the shooting guns, jumping out of airplanes and playing in mud puddles. Like that's what you kind of get with me. A little bit of both.
Think is so amazing. People always ask me, why did you want me on? And I'll usually pick like 1 or 2 things that I love. The thing that I love about you is that you're a yes girl. Well, there's a couple things that I love, but that's one of those things. Like you just kind of, I think I'll do this today. I think I'll be this today. And then all of a sudden you're doing that. So you touched really quickly on the military. First of all, thank you very much for your service.
Oh, thank you. It's my honor.
And I can't imagine being the woman that you are and being in the military. I have this vision of you like holding this huge machine gun and like storming the beaches, right? So tell me a little bit about your time in the military and how that's affected your life since.
Sure. So first of all, yeah, it was an absolute surprise, but it was absolutely the greatest honor of my entire life to be able to serve. Never was it a moment of a thought, of a plan, of anything. When I joined the military, the Gulf War was going on way back in 1992. Not to age myself too much, but yeah, I'll be 50 next year. And when that was going on, I was obsessed with watching it. I have no idea why. I have the newspaper clippings where it says war, like the first papers that came out. And at that time, my parents were going through a divorce and I was homecoming queen, cheerleader, gymnast, like that kind of stuff. I think it was the homecoming princess that year. And then my senior year, a recruiter came to my high school and talked about the military. And during the divorce with my family, the money was tight and I grew up in this little tiny town of the Keys and didn't know where I was going to get scholarship money. There was no computers or anything like that at the time. So I was just like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do that. So I recruited 2 gorgeous girls from my high school and we went and took the ASVAB test. They didn't pass. I did. And I went into the military by myself and I went in for an office job to go into a program where I would get all my college paid for. I ended up becoming an expert shot. So they wanted I turned out to be an M203 grenade launcher, but they did want me to carry that machine gun that you're talking about, the M60. But it was a little heavy for the little girl that I was at that point in time. But it was probably the best thing I've ever done in my life. Again, not planned, but an incredible experience.
A grenade launcher. Why am I not surprised? I mean, I wouldn't expect anything else. And then I'm sure, even though the military was not an exact turn you thought you were going to be making, I'm sure it's affected your life since. So what were your big takeaways from being in the military leading into life as a civilian?
I think the biggest takeaway from that is just the honor of giving back and watching how great people treated me coming out, right? So you go into the military and you're going in, it's this noble, great thing. When you're young, you're not always exactly sure what it's going to be for you. There's parts I hated, basic training, and then I loved. Like, I just loved it. My biggest thing was I came out going, well, I'm getting out when my time's up because I don't want anybody telling me what to do. Well, that's life, right? You come out, you go to a normal job, and that's kind of how life is. You are being told what to do. But what was incredible about it is that I kind of found my passion, which happens to be sales. I run a couple companies, I think, right after the military is when I determined that, gosh, I'm kind of a salesperson. And companies actually gave me the opportunity based on the fact that they were like, wow, you served in the military. We'll give you this job even though you have no experience and we require 5 and a degree in this and this and this, but if you served in the military, you must be good. So that was a big plus, besides the fact of just having the honor to serve my country and the memories that brings for me. But the aspect of how it developed myself into being a business leader and a business owner.
My dad, and I've shared this with you before, my dad did 2 tours in Vietnam. He was a CB in the Navy.
Thank you for his service. That's amazing.
Yes. And he was stationed in 2 places in Vietnam. And so my dad, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but my dad was an orphan. He lost both of his parents before he was 2 years old. So the military for him was family, brotherhood, connection.
Right. Yep.
And he got that while he was in. We obviously now know what the people from Vietnam were treated like when they came home. It wasn't a ticker tape parade, so to speak. So he didn't necessarily.
Yeah, certainly with time.
Right. But it's something that he is so immensely proud of, and something that, he'll see somebody with a ball cap on, or it's on their license plate. And my dad's a touch shy to some degree, but that's an instant connection for him, right. Instant family, right. Instant brotherhood. So I'm sure that's an aspect of it as well.
It is. I have to say it is, because it is a connection no matter where you go and you sit there and you find out somebody has served, whether it be in the same branch or whatever it may be. It's that connection because you understand the hardships. And there's so many people that did a much, much more difficult times in the military than I did. Although it was a wartime situation, I did not go to war. But there's the people who have consistently left their families behind while they went and they fought for this country. And by that, I get chills even like saying it, because my time in the military brought me so much. But the families that literally have stood by their soldiers while they were away, the kids that, are without their mom or dad for a period of time, is just, it's even hard for me to understand how much more of a sacrifice these people give. And it's hard to understand that some people weren't treated well, because not only are you risking your life to go and serve in a wartime situation where most people run away, they're serving, but the time that you are spending away from your family is just an immensely difficult time, but one that, every soldier should be extremely proud of what they've done. It is a commitment.
It is a commitment. And I thank you for bringing up the families, because some people don't understand why you see a social media post or something on Veterans Day or on Memorial Day or whatever, and somebody will say something about the families, and people are like, well, They didn't do anything. They served just as much because they're sacrificed all around. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I do want to touch base on something that you talked about early on. You talked about no kids, not having any children. Right. And, there's a weird, I have 3 children, as you know, but there's a weird shaming thing that goes on, or people constantly feel the need to ask you, when are you going to have kids? Are you going to have kids? You're not. Why didn't you want to have kids? It's such a difficult thing, because it could be for a variety of reasons, right? It could be you physically couldn't do it. You just chose not to do it, or wanted to do something else, put career or travel or whatever it may be ahead of that. And first and foremost, before we talk about your situation, I want anybody that's watching to know, whatever your decision is, it's yours. And that's okay. It's okay if it's something that didn't happen for you physically, or it's okay for something that didn't happen for you maybe spiritually. And it's completely okay. So tell me about your situation, decision, whatever it may be, about starting a family.
Well, from the time I was a tiny little kid, I always knew that kids were my thing. I used to always tell my mom when I was in high school, I would want God to take me, Mom, if I didn't have kids or if I couldn't have kids. And from a very young age, I just had this really maternal instinct and knew that that was like my life and my passion. And the universe had a whole different plan for me. I was married. We tried to get pregnant. There was nothing wrong with either one of us. It just didn't happen. There's a part of me that always wonders, was I so driven in my career to feel, there was a part of me that needed to feel like I was accomplishing something or I was giving back to something. So a lot of my career has, although it's been in sales and it's been very rewarding and plentiful, my job has always kind of wanted to be along the sides of something to give back. And I think I was spending a lot of time in that business mode that I just kept saying, you know what, next year. And then I was getting opportunities that I never thought that I would ever have. I started working it just different phenomenal opportunities. And I was traveling the world and these were my dream jobs. And, I look at it and say, did I give up kids for business? I mean, I don't know. Nobody's ever really shamed me, but I think sometimes I shame myself and say, did you miss that opportunity because you were always trying to get to be a business owner? You were always trying to get to that next level. You always wanted to be better at what you were doing and how you were, serving your time at work or whatever it may be. But in the big picture, I really know that I'm at peace with it. And I'm certainly at peace at 49 years old with it. Because I live a very blessed life. I've had lots of animals. I think that's somewhere where I have birds, macaw, and African gray, I have dogs. I just think that now, I just know that that was my plan. The universe made it that way. And my sister, who never wanted kids, has a little 5-year-old, and it's amazing. At least we have one in the family. So.
I remember when I first met you, it's been, I won't say how long. It's been a little bit of time, but I was the one. I didn't want to get married or have children. And now I'm married with 3 kids. So, I think it's funny. There's that saying, if you ever want to hear God chuckle, go ahead and tell him your plans, right? So I think, first off, I think you're absolutely perfect just the way that you are. That your accomplishments and your go get 'em attitude and the yes, you're that person that I want to be around because you're like, you want to try this new experience? Yes. And I'm like, all right, I may not always be the yes person, but I'm absolutely going to borrow your confidence and go, I'll do it too then, So, and that
do a shark dive.
Well, no.
I'm going very soon. Tiger sharks again.
I will support you and wave the Jeannette banner very safely from the beach. And I will be totally thankful for that. But I love watching all of your stuff because to me, you present what women can be. I can make these choices and I can go and do these things and I can be in the military. I can be gorgeous. I can do this and this. And that to me is so empowering. So thank you for being you. The last thing I want to talk about before, I could probably talk to you for 10 hours, but
we could go for days.
I know. The last thing I want to talk to you about, and for those of you obviously that are watching it, do not know Jeannette, we see all the time like #boss babe. I fully feel that term was coined because of you. This gal has owned, bought, sold more companies than I will probably ever know in my lifetime. And I know sales has always been your target. But the thing that I kind of want to focus on just for a minute or two is being a woman owner, right? Yeah. And how there's great advantages to that. And then there are also some tough times too because of it. So, yeah. So talk to me a little bit about that, of course, without bashing men too much.
And there's there's no man bashing in that. There's no shame in the game. That I think for some men, it's really difficult when you do own a company. This is my fourth or fifth company, and these couple that are kind of being put under this umbrella. These will be my last. At least they'll all be under this umbrella. I'm not starting any new ideas, hopefully anytime soon. But these take all my time. But yes, it's really tough because for me, I'm strong. From the time I became an armor in the military, like you said, I went in for a little office job, and next thing you know, I'm teaching people how to shoot weapons, and it was mostly men back then. This is back in 1992. There wasn't a lot of women, especially with like hair down to here and little cheerleaders in the military. But it taught me that it's important to lead, right? And I don't always like to lead because I'm such a social person. I want everybody to be happy. I'm a people person. I'm a people pleaser. But I also have that very dominant, driven side as well, which makes it for a very kind of weird balance personality, because you're finding out minute to minute which one of those you're on today. But with that being said, yeah, there's some tough times because I've had people that I've hired. I've had managers that I've hired that, they have a little bit of a hard time when it's the woman telling them what to do, or when women do things, sometimes, they're not always looked at as, oh, wow, she's such a tough one. She's so great. Like a man, they look at it and they say, oh, what is she? Cranky today, or what's
right.
her
Right.
And it's that I'm going to command the same things that the men have. And will you always get it? No. But if you're going to work with me, you probably are going to learn really quickly that we do have to get along, and we do have to experience that bond of, look, we're in it together. But the greatest gift of this is when I say I'm a salesperson, I'm either a business owner or a salesperson. Management, everything in between is kind of tough for me. But I love sharing the experiences of everything that I've learned from a very young age and those opportunities that I was given so graciously. I love giving that to the young people that I have coming in. It's really cool when, a young girl goes, I really inspire to be like you. And I'm like, oh, really? But I do get what they mean. Half the time I'm like, oh, you don't want to be. But the other parts I say, wow, that's a big inspiration to me. So that's the reward.
It really is. And I mean, it's so hard sometimes to look at your own life and know that you've had accomplishments. You can check a couple boxes off. But the thing that I find the most interesting, and it was almost somewhat of a social experiment, when I first started this podcast, after I would ask people, they would say, why me? Why are you picking me? And I'm thinking, no, you should have a podcast and you should be inviting people on. Sometimes women, I think, just don't know how amazing and influential and, totally engaging of other women that they are. Yeah. So, with that, at the end of every podcast, I like to have the guest give, it can be women, it can be anybody, and it can be based on any part of your life. I love them to give a piece of advice. You've lived 1,000 lives. So I would love to hear what a piece of advice would be from you to another woman.
I think the advice that I would just give is, don't worry about every little thing and what somebody's going to say. Just go out and do it, right? You just go out and you live it and you do it. You have one life. And I look at how fast this life is going by. I can't believe I'm turning 50. I still feel like I'm like 20. Well, no, let me take that back. I do not feel like I'm 20, but I act like I'm 20 some days. And then I'm in bed for a couple of days, kind of just recovering from the age. But go live your best life. There's times where I don't want to be on social media and be perfect. I show the downsides. I show the good sides. Every piece of life is an experience, and there's a lesson to learn in it. And for me, I learn every day that there's just more room for me to grow and to give everything you can of your experiences back to the world.
Jeannette, I cannot agree with you anymore. And I hope that's what people take away from the life's journey that you've talked about today, is to live life, grasp it, take it. It goes so fast. And I would say that's probably some piece of advice that I would give my younger self. As we get older, we really try to hang on, right? Like, oh, I'm going to enjoy every single little thing. Sometimes when you're younger, you don't. So for anybody that's watching, Jeannette and I both profess enjoy life, grasp it, take it. Jeannette, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is a very busy time of year. It's a busy time for you in particular. Thank you so much for being on. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Danielle. And thank you for having me. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Family.
I will. Thank you so much. And for anybody that is watching right now, be sure to like this video. There is a lot that we covered today, and Jeannette is such an inspiring person, and I hope that you get a lot out of it. I know that you will. Let us know that you did by subscribing to the channel so you know all of the people that are coming up in the months ahead. We have so many episodes of women that are just as inspiring as Jeannette. Thank you so much for being with Diary of a Queen.
And congratulations to you, Danielle.
Thank you.